place. I mean, you're a local real estate agent, so you're a local business. When you click on local business, it's going to ask you the following things. And this first one is a drop down, and I would select real estate. So just write down local business real estate. There's other options, like you could choose brand website or brand professional services, but I think the local business has the best, is going to have the best SEO effect or Facebook effect for you to be found, and that's what I see most businesses using, is that local business. If you're a brokerage and you've got 3 offices in a larger area, as long as those are still within a certain demographic area, then I would still say local business, and I would create one larger brokerage page rather than one for each office. You could do one for each office, but I think that having a larger group is better in a lot of ways. Once you choose real estate, it's just going to ask you the title of the page that you want: street address, city, zip, phone. If you don't want to do street address, I don't believe you have to, but it certainly doesn't have to show publicly. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. But and this used to be something that I really stressed, is that you have to get this title right from the get-go. Well, it now appears, and Facebook can change things on a dime, but it now appears that any fan page that has less than 100 fans can change that title whenever they want. Okay? So if you screw this up here, mainly we're talking about typos and things like this, but if you mess up here, then you don't have 100 fans, then you can go back and modify this title. And I'm going to talk a whole bunch about how to choose a title here in a moment. But that function could come and go at any moment. So the title is not going to be something that you want to change all the time. But that's the first page. You're just going to select local business real estate. Now let's talk a little bit about this name process. Okay. This is the strongest ranking factor in Facebook search. If you want to call it, it's not SEO, but when somebody searches for something, the keywords that are in the name title of your Facebook fan page are the most significant factor that there is. Okay, but some common pitfalls that I see other brokers doing. First one is using temporary information in their page name. What I mean by temporary information is things that you can't control, such as John Smith, Remax agent. Well, John Smith might be really happy with Remax right now, but what if he builds up 500 fans and then he decides to go out on his own because he's so successful, or he gets in a beef with his broker and he decides it'd just be easier if he left, and he's no longer a Remax agent. The only thing that John can do is take down that page. There's no way for him to rename this. Okay? I'm not telling you that you shouldn't include Remax or your brokerage somewhere on that fan page, but the title is the worst place in the world for it. Okay? And again, check with your local. I can't override what your local MLS or your company passes as guidelines, but so check with those. But I would argue that if your company is so caught up in projecting its own brand name that it forces you to not uniquely identify yourself, then I would probably start looking for a different brokerage. So that's the first one, and I mean, I would even go as far as saying, like, there's not a whole lot of examples of temporary information, but if you're a woman and you're engaged and you know that you're going to be changing your name in your business name, or the name by which you identify yourself, when you get married, that I wouldn't set that up as your current name. I would go ahead and lock in whatever your permanent name is going to be when you get married. The other one, another pitfall is not including the location. So, like, just putting out there something like John Smith, Realtor to the Stars. Okay, anyone that searches Hollywood, anything to do with Hollywood, if John's a Hollywood agent, then they're not going to find him. Okay, now there are other ways, other places where John can put Hollywood, But remember, the most important thing that he can do is here. Now, I'm not saying that John Smith Hollywood realtor is a whole lot better, but at least you've got that Hollywood, that geographic keyword that a lot of people are going to be searching by in there. Um, I think that sometimes people who want to, um, have a broader exposure, they limit themselves when they choose something that's too real estate centric, like choosing Miami homes for sale. Think about the type of people that would be interested in Miami homes for sale. It is only people who are in the immediate market to buy a home. Okay? And that's fine if you're in a giant area like Miami, but how in the world are you going to um, how in the world are you going to sort of hit this moving target all the time? Because as soon as someone buys a home, they're not going to stay fans of yours. They're going to unlike you. And we want pages that grow and grow and grow, not are constantly ebbing and flowing with your audience. So this is one of the major reasons that I highly encourage taking sort of a more hyper-local approach and doing something like McClellanville, South Carolina, or 365 things to do in your area. And you don't have to call it 365 things. That's sort of been overdone at this point. But maybe you just call it, things to do in or something like that. But again, the idea is when you choose more of a hyper-local topic like that, you're able to cast a much broader net. That's how Marty Van Diest, the agent I was talking about earlier, that's how he was able to bring his page up to 1,200 fans, was because he's talking, and that's, by the way, that's in like a month's time. He's been talking about everything that's going on in that community, not just real estate. And so that's an important thing to think about, is if you focus just on real estate, you're really, really, really diminishing the number of people that are going to become a fan of it. Just think about the title that you're choosing, and think about, would you like that if you were an everyday consumer or the type of audience that you're looking for? Ark asked a question about the maximum number of characters in the name. Ark, it's a lot longer than it ever should be, is the bottom line. If you have, and the final one I'm going to show you here is too long. And I think it would let you have a fan page called John Smith, your San Diego, California foreclosure and short sale expert. That's way too long. You're going to limit yourself and the abilities that you can do, and it'll look weird a lot of the time when you try to go do things like link to your own content and things like that. So the shorter the better in almost every way. And then the final point is this example here, mymcclellanville.net. This was the first fan page I created, and the fact that there's no spaces in here meant that when I went to go run an ad, it sort of had to chop this and hyphenate it. And that's really, really ineffective, because people just were confused and it doesn't look right. And so as a result, I just sort of took this page down and I just said, well, you know what, I'm just going to call it McClellanville, South Carolina. And I started a new one. That luckily my McClellanville one I hadn't really pushed very hard for long at all. I was just trying things out with the new pages when they came out. So those are some sort of common pitfalls that I come across. Some good examples, and these are all obviously sort of, just taken from things that I personally could do. But one, just name it after your community. Second, you could name it after your website. For those of you who have a blog that's got a clever name, the Real Estate Tomato, for instance, then let that branding continue from your website to Facebook, and allow that to be your name. Dan Hill says, I wasn't able to put spaces in my page name. Dan, you should absolutely be able to put spaces in there. You may not be able to put them in the user name, which I'm going to get to here in a moment, but you absolutely can put them in the actual name of your website. So maybe that's the distinction that you're talking about. And I'll talk about usernames here in a minute. Um, 365 things to do in McClellanville, South Carolina. There really aren't 365 things to do in my small town, so that wouldn't have been a good topic for me. But for most of you guys living in a area where there's things going on every weekend, it's really not that hard to sort of plug into what's going on in your community and promote a new business, a new event, a new activity, something going on every day. And pretty soon, what you'll find is that probably once you hit about the 100 mark and you've got a bunch of fans, you should start finding that some businesses sort of start beating a path down to your door and say, promote me, promote me, promote me. And then you're all of a sudden you're in a position of power where you're actually able to sort of win some favors through your fan page. Daniel Bates, McClellanville Realtor. Simple, straightforward, and permanent information. I'm not going to change my name, and I'm not going to change where I work. If you do plan on changing where you work, then that's probably not a good title there. If I want to do one for my brokerage, because I'm a broker, I could do it MCVL Realty. I could just stop there, keep it short and sweet, MCVL Realty. That would probably be my first preference. But if I wanted to push it with a little bit more SEO, and again, I hate to call it SEO because it really isn't, but if I wanted to optimize the keywords a little bit better, then I might say MCVL Realty, McClellanville Real Estate Company, or something like that. I still think that this is probably a little too long, but depends on what the name of your brokerage is and things like that. So if any of you guys have questions down the road or right after this class specifically relating to your fan page and you want to email me, it doesn't take me but a second to sort of look at what you're doing, look at the title, see if things are meshing, and make a suggestion on whether or not it's a good title or whether or not you should stay there. Or if you want to bounce an idea off me before you start, you can. But I really do think it's crucial, although it's a lot better now that Facebook allows you to change it until you hit that 100 fan mark. But because it used to just be like, when you hit publish on that page, you were locked in there. But now you've got a couple of options at least till you hit the 100 page mark. So let's talk a little bit. Hold on. Damon's got a question here. Facebook requires all fields put in to create the page, like address, phones, etc. Are they editable? Yes, those are editable through once you've got through that first page. I don't have this page right here. It'll take you to your new page, and there's an information tab. And that's why I say even if you plug in your street address, you can remove that if you don't want it. For instance, I don't actually have, I'm a completely virtual brokerage, so I don't have a address that I like to publish. I have one that I use for marketing, obviously, but I don't publicize it everywhere. And so so you can go back and remove those. But I would highly recommend leaving the city and zip, because that's going to have some bearing on how people find you. If somebody just wants to find all the business, just types in McClellanville, for instance, then even if I don't have McClellanville in my title here, if my city is McClellanville, then I can still come up when people do searches for me and things like that. Let's talk a little bit about what Dan was asking about usernames. Basically, Facebook is going to take the page that you, the title that you give your website. So let's say that mine is called McClellanville, South Carolina. Facebook is going to create a URL or a username for that fan page. Okay, and when it starts off, it's something really obscenely long, like www.facebook.com/pages/McClellanville-SC / and then it's a whole bunch of numbers, and those numbers are your page ID numbers. But once you hit 25 fans, and I can't say this for sure, but unless Facebook changed it on their most recent update, because it's been 25 for quite a while. But once you hit 25 fans, you have the ability to create what's known as a vanity URL. And all you do, and actually Facebook makes it really simple. You can see this screen right here. This is your information tab, and it says username, and it'll say your page needs at least 25, or once you get there, it'll say select your custom username. Okay? So it'll remind, it doesn't send you an email and say you've now got 25, but it'll let you know how to do this. They used to sort of be hidden. But anyway, tie this in with your branding. For me, I just shortened mine to facebook.com/McClellanville. Okay, I took the SC out of the equation. The Real Estate Tomato changed their